Hey everyone, Shrubby here. Welcome to part 4 of my Fundamentals of Piano course. Today we're going to be talking about chords. So what is a chord? Basically, a chord is any two or more notes played together at the same time. And when we name the chords of a song, what we're doing is we're describing the harmony, which is responsible for setting the emotional context and overall mood of the song. I'll show you what I mean. So we can take a simple song like You Are My Sunshine, and first I'm going to play it with the original chords. Now what happens if I completely change the chords underneath? It has a totally different vibe, right? So this is the power of chords, and I'm going to show you a few basic ones today. The first type of chord we're going to look at is triads. So a triad is a 3-note chord. We can easily build a C major triad by playing the first, third, and fifth note of the C major scale. Now, using the 7 different notes of the C major scale, there's 7 different triads we can build. So let's take this shape, and we're just going to move it up step by step. And there we have all 7 of the chords that belong to the key of C major. These chords are often referred to by a number, which will be written usually as a Roman numeral. So the first chord would be the 1 chord, because it starts on the first note of the scale, then the 2 chord, 3, and so on. We can string together a few of these chords to create a chord progression. Here's a common one. We're going to go from 1 to 6 to 4 to 5. And using this chord progression, we could play Heart and Soul. Now, I want to point out that there's more than one way to play each triad. So, for example, any combination of the notes C, E, and G make up a C major triad, whether I play it like this or like this. Those are both C major. The exact arrangement of the notes within the chord are referred to as the chord voicing. So this voicing is a much more strong and powerful voicing than something like this. An easy way to start developing new voicings is by inverting the chord. So this particular voicing is a C major triad in root position because the root note of the chord is C, and it's played on the bottom of the chord. If we take that C and move it up an octave, now we have a C major triad in first inversion. And if we bring this E up an octave as well, this is called second inversion. So we can practice our inversions by going through all of the chords within C major in first and second inversion. So here's first inversion. And second inversion. The advantage to knowing inversions is that we can use them to create better voice leading in our chord progressions. To explain voice leading, I like to think of the notes of the chord as being sung by a choir. So if I'm playing 3 notes, I'm imagining 3 different voices singing each of these pitches. And as I'm playing a progression, I want each of these voices to move as little as possible between chords to create a smooth transition so that each voice has a melody of its own. So for example, let's take that 1, 6, 4, 5 progression we played earlier. I can go from 1 to 6 by moving my entire hand down like this. Or I can keep my hand in the same position and move just one single note. And now I'm playing that 6th chord, that A minor chord, in first inversion. And the only note that had to move was this G moving up to A. Similarly, when I go to the 4 chord, the only note I need to move is this E up to an F. And then I can move down to a first inversion G major chord for the 5, which leads nicely back to 1, with my 2 lower voices, each moving up a step. So that whole progression would look like. And that sounds much smoother than jumping around. Now, triads are not the only type of chords you're going to see. There's also 4-note chords, the most common of which are 7th chords. A 7th chord can be built by taking a triad, 1, 3, and 5, and adding the 7 on top. In this case, we get C major 7. And again, we can move this and find our diatonic 7th chords, or the 7th chords that belong to the key of C major. These 7th chords also have inversions as well. Once you've mastered your 7th chords, you can start adding on your 9s and sharp 11s and 13s and all the other extensions. But it's really these triads and 7th chords that are going to be your bread and butter as you're building your chord vocabulary. And that brings me to my last point, which is that chords are one of the most important pieces of vocabulary we have as pianists. And the only way you're going to be able to use them within a song is if they've been embedded into your muscle memory. So whenever you discover a new chord voicing that you like, put some time into really getting familiar with that shape. You can try moving it around. You can try it in different keys. Try to find places in songs you're working on where you can use that new voicing. There's honestly hundreds of different chord voicings you could possibly learn, and that can seem intimidating. But remember that you don't have to learn all of these at once. Learn your basic triads in C major. Try playing those triads in 1 or 2 other keys, maybe D major and B flat major. When you've mastered this, move on to your 7th chords. It can be a really slow process at first, but the more chords you have under your belt, the more you're going to start recognizing patterns, and it's going to be easier to accumulate more and more voicings into your vocabulary. So hopefully this was helpful in getting you started playing chords on the piano. If you're enjoying these videos, go ahead and hit subscribe, and until next time, happy practicing.